When I say the name JaVale McGee, what pops into your mind? I can almost guarantee that most people think of his many appearances on Shaqtin A Fool. You can probably hear the Hall of Fame big man's famous shout in his signature blooper reel. While that may have resulted in the peak of his NBA popularity, what surrounded this streak of infamy was a career filled with various highs and plenty of lows. This is the story of
JaVale McGee! JaVale McGee! My boy is back! JaVale McGee!
Born on January 19, 1988 in Flint, Michigan, McGee seemed destined for a career in basketball. His biological father, George Montgomery, played 4 years at Illinois and was a second-round pick in the 1985 NBA draft. He would never play in the league, but he would carve out a solid overseas career. He was also not involved in JaVale's upbringing, leaving his mother, Pamela McGee, responsible for raising their children. Despite this setback, Pamela was able to accomplish even more than George. She was a two-time national champion at USC, won a gold medal, had a lengthy overseas career, and was also part of the inaugural WNBA season. It really is admirable that she was able to achieve so much while being a single mother. She helped influence JaVale's love for the sport from the beginning. People claim that when JaVale was only 9 months old, he would be in a stroller next to his mother who was lifting weights. As he got older, Pamela would teach him the ins and outs of the game. He was able to get a first-hand understanding of her style, since he was allowed to travel with her both overseas and in her short WNBA stint. By the time JaVale reached high school, he was almost 7 feet tall. Being that size, it was only natural that he would play basketball. According to him, there was some pressure for him to play, but it was really only for his height. He never felt like he needed to play just because his parents were successful. Even with his great size, success still wasn't guaranteed. He started off at Detroit Country Day, a school that had plenty of highly ranked basketball players. The field was so competitive that McGee had to start off on the JV team, but he saw it just as a reason to keep working hard. He would transfer schools multiple times, finishing his high school career at Hales Franciscan in Chicago. JaVale was commended for being a great all-around player in high school, especially at his size. He could dribble, be a solid playmaker, and even hit some threes. This definitely had something to do with his mom, as she taught him to work from the outside in. She never had him focus on posting up or backing someone down in the paint. He was so good that they wanted him to play small forward or power forward in college. While he didn't make much of an impact in his freshman year, his numbers skyrocketed across the board in his sophomore campaign. He became a regular starter, and he took full advantage of his increased role. He averaged 14 points, 7 rebounds, and a conference-leading 2.8 blocks per game in 2008. He was named to the second-team All-WAC and the WAC All-Defensive Team. McGee declared for the NBA draft following his sophomore season. He was projected to go near the middle of the first round, but many still felt like he would have benefited from another year at Nevada. There was a lot to like about him, primarily with his size and wingspan. He showed a clear ability to defend the rim, and he was also developing a solid offensive game in the paint. But there were some downsides. One common thread you'll see throughout his scouting reports is a lack of maturity. That's something that both Mark Fox and NBA author Aaron Smith pointed out. That, combined with him still needing to grow into his body, made him more of a project player. Some thought he had real star potential, while others thought he would be no better than someone like Andrew Bynum or Patrick O'Brien. The 2008 NBA draft saw JaVale McGee get picked 18th overall by the Washington Wizards. They were impressed by his defensive skills, but he was entering a team with plenty of experienced big men. There were two definitive sides to JaVale's time in DC. On the court, you had a guy who wasn't lighting the world on fire, but he was still improving each year. In his first year as a full-time starter, he averaged career highs in points, rebounds, and blocks. Even if the Wizards were one of the worst teams in the league, JaVale was still showing flashes of what made him a good college player. He even blocked a career-high 12 shots in a loss to the Bulls. He also scored 11 points and collected 11 rebounds, giving him his first career triple-double. It's just too bad for him that a lot of people consider this one of the most embarrassing triple-doubles in NBA history. With the game out of reach, Washington just force-fed JaVale the ball in hopes that he could get to 10 points. He tried, and tried, and tried, before finally getting the job done with less than 20 seconds to go. Of course, given how he struggled to get his points, it only makes sense that he was given a tech for hanging on the rim. Now, off the court, JaVale unfortunately got caught up in some trouble. While he by no means was a consistent off-court issue, he wasn't exactly squeaky clean. In the preseason of his rookie year, McGee fought and put Andre Blatch in a headlock because Blatch took a seat and he was pissed that they lost the game. He fought Blatch again the next year. Nick Young recalled that they threw hands because JaVale was talking to a girl that Blatch had either been with before or was still seeing at the time. They decided to settle things in an elevator of all places, which you can imagine how that went. This time, both players were punished for this altercation, but this would pale in comparison to the final incident. Although McGee wasn't one of the major players in this one, he was part of the card game that led to the Gilbert Arenas-Javaris Crittenton altercation. He didn't face any long-term consequences from this, but he was fined $10,000 by the team for posing in a picture making fun of this controversy. After putting up career highs yet again, JaVale was sent out to Denver in a 3-team trade. Unfortunately for McGee, the 2012 season would also see him be featured on a certain blooper reel for the first time. Admittedly, it was pretty funny watching him try to dunk from the free throw line down by 25, but this certainly wouldn't be the last time McGee was laughed at. He had 8 plays on Shaqtin A Fool in 2012 just from the 41 games in Washington, really setting the tone for what was to come years later. McGee would become a productive bench piece in Denver, and he would play postseason basketball for the first time in his young career. The Nuggets finished with 38 wins in the lockout-shortened season, good enough for the 6th best record in the West. They would match up with the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs. JaVale's numbers were very up and down. He was still great at defending the rim, but there was a lot to be desired offensively. His best game of the series came in Game 5. Down 3-1, on the road, season on the line, JaVale dropped 21 points and 14 rebounds, helping Denver stave off elimination. The Nuggets would lose in 7, but it still wasn't a bad first postseason outing for the 24-year-old McGee. He continued to provide good bench depth for Denver in 2013. He averaged 9 points and 2 blocks, and the Nuggets finished with 57 wins. He seemed to have found his place in the league, even if it wasn't the star level of play that some thought he could reach. But at the same time, his appearances on Shaqtin A Fool continued to pile up. What made this start to feel a little weird was that not all of these clips were the most egregious things in the world. Now don't get me wrong, there was still some funny stuff here. Like, I don't even know what to say about this. Just, come on, man. McGee even appeared on Inside the NBA for Shaq's birthday, which gave us this clip.
What is it that you like about Shaqtin A Fool?
I don't watch Shaqtin A Fool.
Shaqtin A Coon?
From this clip, it seemed like JaVale was in on the joke. He wasn't exactly thrilled, but he was taking it in stride. I'm sure it helps when you're getting $11 million a year and are playing winning basketball. Denver's dream season would come to an end at the hands of Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. JaVale's numbers were down a bit, but he did dunk on Andrew Bogut, so that was cool. But the good times for McGee wouldn't last long as we enter the lull period of his career. He missed almost the entire 2014 season after sustaining a fractured tibia. That didn't stop him from appearing on Shaqtin A Fool 4 times, despite only playing 5 games. He would come back the next year, but his role was severely diminished. The Nuggets weren't able to build on that magical 2013 season, and they had lost many of the players that made that year possible. With no clear direction and plenty of bloated contracts, they decided to start fresh. McGee was traded to Philly, where he only played 6 games before he was cut. He still had time to show up on Shaqtin A Fool though. See what I mean? This dude played 6 games on an 18-win Sixers team. You really gotta be looking for this kind of stuff or be on some real sicko shit to find this. He went unsigned for quite a while in the 2015 offseason. He was later signed by Dallas, but he was once again entering a crowded center room. This season was more of the same for McGee. He was dealing with injuries, and he had issues working his way into the rotation. His game really hadn't evolved much, and he had gained a reputation as a dumb player. It seemed like anytime he did play, he was bound to be featured on Shaqtin A Fool. He only played in 34 games, and he barely appeared in Dallas' first-round loss to OKC. McGee's contract included a team option for his second season, and Dallas felt okay letting him go. Many thought this could be the end for McGee. His reputation as the NBA's clown, as he put it, preceded any good he brought to a basketball team. When you combine that with his recent injury history, it's no surprise that it took until September for JaVale to find another team. Thankfully, he signed with the Golden State Warriors, a team with championship experience and structure. He was able to find a consistent rotation spot once again, and his numbers improved. He never needed to be the 6th or 7th option on this team, but he still wasn't bad with the minutes that he was given. While his minutes may not have been consistent, him showing up on Shaqtin A Fool sure was. By this time, McGee was in his 9th season, and he was still regularly being featured on the blooper reel. Normally, he just brushed it off, but one clip pushed him over the edge. He explained what made him speak out on Draymond Green's podcast.
Right. It was like a last straw. I seen the episode. I'm watching the episode. You know, people tag you, everything. I'm like, all right, what do I do now? So I watched the episode. I think I went coast to coast and I missed the layup. I was just like, did they just put me on Shaqtin A Fool for missing a layup? Not airballing a layup, not nothing crazy. Just went coast to coast. I might have did a move and I just missed the layup. I'm just like, all right, bro. This is it, bro. I'm not going for this shit no more, bro. Like, come on, bro. You already have, first of all, you're a perennial Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? Like, your reach is global. Like, kids in villages in China know who Shaq is. So the fact that you keep putting this narrative out there about me, First of all, my first question is why? Like, do I know somebody you know that you feel a certain type of way about something, or is there a reason that this is happening? Like, and then at the second part is, why'd you do this to another black man?
Yeah, it makes sense why JaVale was so fed up with this. He had been featured on Shaqtin A Fool more than any other player, and it was negatively affecting how he was perceived by the fans and media. Even in the articles I read while researching for this video, he was described as goofy, and his appearances on Shaqtin were always brought up. After a lengthy back and forth and some intervening from the Warriors, Shaq said that JaVale would never show up on Shaqtin A Fool again. Not surprisingly, McGee's career would really start to pick up once he wasn't mocked on national television every week. JaVale would win not one, but 2 championships with the Warriors. He was a solid contributor in both of these championship runs, and he even started 3 games in the 2018 finals. He cashed in on this success by signing a 2-year deal with the Lakers, putting him in another high-profile position after LA signed LeBron James. While the Lakers were disappointing, the same couldn't be said for McGee. At 31 years old, JaVale had the best season of his career. He was a starting center for the first time in almost a decade, and he took full advantage of his time in the spotlight. He was consistently putting up double figures, with his best performance coming in a loss to the Nets. He put up 33 points, 20 rebounds, and 6 blocks. It was like we were witnessing the player that some thought he could turn into when he entered the league. He averaged 12 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 blocks on 62% shooting. An interview with Kyle Kuzma really showed you that even the players were influenced by Shaqtin A Fool. He mentioned that JaVale was actually a student of the game, and he knows a lot about basketball. For any other 11-year vet, that should go without saying, especially one with 2 championships. JaVale was kept on the team even after they traded for Anthony Davis and tried to give LeBron more help. He still kept his job as the starting center, even if his numbers did go down. His minutes went down once the playoffs began, but the Lakers were still able to go all the way, giving McGee his 3rd championship. The last notable achievement of JaVale McGee's career came in the summer of 2021. He and Spurs forward Keldon Johnson were chosen to replace Kevin Love and Bradley Beal on Team USA. He came off the bench, averaging around 6 points per game, and the United States captured the gold medal. This was a cool full-circle moment, since his mom was also an Olympic gold medalist. This made them the first ever mother and son to win gold medals. I'd also be remiss not to show this cringeworthy moment.
Welcome aboard. I'm not sure. Is your mom still with us?
My mom alive? Yeah, she's still alive.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's a weird question to ask somebody, but keep going.
As his career came to a close, he would continue to bounce around the league. He would find consistent minutes at times, but he was mostly brought in to be a good veteran presence on contending teams, which I guarantee would not have happened if he continued to be ridiculed by Shaq. He played his final NBA game in 2024, dunking the ball against his former team in the play-in tournament. He spent last season in Puerto Rico, and at 37 years old, it's likely that his days playing in the NBA are over. But even if this is the end, he still had a damn good career. For the most part, he was a reliable role player. He played 17 seasons and won 3 championships, which certainly wasn't the trajectory he was heading toward before he signed with Golden State. But you may ask yourself, Zach, this was cool and all, but why did you just spend the last 12 minutes talking about a guy who was just a good role player? Well, I don't know if I speak for everyone, but I always thought that people who grew up watching this league found a role player they started to follow. Maybe he wasn't the best, but you still became a fan. For me, I became a fan of JaVale McGee because of his appearances on Shaqtin A Fool. It was when he signed with Golden State that I really started paying attention, which made it even cooler to watch him win 2 championships and have that career year in LA. I might not have enjoyed his 3rd ring for obvious reasons, but I still would check up on where he was in the league every now and then. Hell, I even bought that dude's Wizards jersey from some weird British website. You see, I'm not like these weird player muse accounts on Twitter, I'm really dedicated to this. But like I said, it was cool seeing a guy go from a joke to an actually respected player. Maybe it was because I could relate a bit then, and still do now from time to time. But that was the story of JaVale McGee. Let me know in the comments what y'all thought about JaVale and this video. And let me know who y'all's favorite role player was in the comments. Like, subscribe if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all later.
Shot clock for the Nuggets. McGee! Oh! What a slam! He'll bring a little heat when he's ready.